Hi, everybody, and welcome back. This is Benita with your October forecast. And it's going to be probably a little bit long and involved today because there's a lot of dye that ended up on this mat. Again, we're using the Publishing Goblins Oracle dice. So we've got a lot to go through. Interestingly enough, the chaos die took off on us, so it's not going to be part of the story. But there is a lot happening for October. So we have the actions die, and it is starting out right here under foundation. So that's like what we are building on. And we have sacrifice. So it's something that we don't want to do, but typically if we do it, it's for the better, giving up something, someone, or even a somewhere. So what are you going to let go of in order for the next thing to be able to come about for you? So that's the action die. And it'll be interesting because these are all kind of clustered together. So we're going to get a real sense of how they all work together. And it does say, it has to do with the person. So each of us are going to be sacrificing in some way. It can also have to do with somebody else's sacrifice that's bearing on the reading. So that's a possible interpretation as well. And then we have the alchemist die, which is showing up right there with it. So I should show you. So the sacrifice die shows a little dude getting stabbed. I don't know if you can see it in this kind of light, but anyway, that's what that is. And the alchemist die, we've got that happening. I know this is not the best light. I'm not sure if I can. There, I'll lift that and see if that improves things. Okay, so the alchemist die, what we have is copper, and it's considered a lightning rod. It gathers energy around it. And so it can gain power easily. It can also come across as being harsh. So when it's found with other die, it speaks to those dice being direct energies coming in that are being absorbed for better or for worse. And it can warn of harmful energies. So there's a lot of energy around that sacrifice. So expect in a lot of ways for it to be an emotional month. Okay. Our ally die is showing up right close by. And this has to do with without or beyond. And in this case, we have a hand holding a puzzle piece. So with that one, it's called scavenge. So it looks like a puzzle piece. I guess it's actually more like half of an egg. It's basically considered a crumpled piece of trash. Um, so what it's basically saying is scavenging is necessary for survival, but it's not just collecting garbage. It's finding what is left when things fall, finding what's good in a bad situation. So in other words, what do you need to sift through? So it looks like whatever's happening here that's forming the foundation and the present, we're going to have to pluck from it whatever we found to be beneficial. In other words, okay, this might be a hard situation we're dealing with, but what are we learning from it? That's what we're looking at here. The attentions die happens to be right here in our core. I know not everything can be seen on camera, but I will hold it up for you. So it is called the lantern die, and it's sitting right in our core. It rarely weighs heavily. It typically just sets the boundaries for what the reading will cover, focusing on the people closest to the querent, so it's narrowing our view. So in other words, this particular month, things are going to be probably very directly connected to people we're very close to. So the people in your immediate circle are the ones affecting you this month. All right. And the autumn die. It's interesting this month because I'm seeing a lot of die faces I have not seen before, which kind of as soon as I dropped them made me go, oh, this is going to be an interesting month. This is going to be a month with some cool challenges and some changes for us. So this dice that we're looking at shows up, and it is a pitchfork and scythe. and it is showing up under the past, and it's showing up with other die as well. So it's called works. Works can relate to projects to take on, either beginning or continuing, time to put in the work. And it's basically, because it's showing up in the past, it's informing with these die things we still have to work through from the past. So that's coming up. And it's like we deal with things in layers. For example, last month it kind of said move on from the past. But you've done some work now. Now it's time to go to the next layer. What do we need to work on now that's still related to the past? Okay, chaos die we can skip because it jumped off the board. I've got a few dice sitting over here that are the ones that jumped off. So most things we have on the board, but there's just a few things that have jumped off. Under the elements die, we have metal. It's showing up really close, showing under present, and it's showing up really close to some of the other die. And so this one is will made manifest, strength in working and crafting and in use, to be implacable but remain sharp. And when it's found with other die, it speaks to the things that have been built either literally or figuratively by people. It's not shaped by nature. And so it's, in most cases, so the impediments placed near the metal face speak to man-made constructs barring your way. So right now it's awfully close to the one that's about sacrifice and copper, which energizes things. So it's showing that our foundation is one where we've got the challenge of giving up something, and it's a really charged situation, but we're making something of that in the present. And it pairs a lot with this one, which is about finding the good you can get out of a situation. So it's saying this is the time to be very constructive with the situations that you're facing. And the fate die. The fate die shows up where? And it shows up in the present. And that shows up as cards. You see that one there, that's cards. And it's looking at the hand that you've been dealt. You may have a chance to throw away cards. This is something that involves risk, but there are times when nothing can be made worse by making a change. So it's basically saying it's the situation as we've come to find it. It's just what is now. But it's asking you to kind of take inventory. So things have already happened. What is the situation you find yourself in? What opportunities are present? And it says it sometimes will share hints as to what is in the hand. So if we look at all these, it's a charged situation you need to make something of. So I find it very interesting, the die that land together and what they mean together. So it's basically saying whatever has to be sacrificed here, whatever charged situation you're dealing with, and because it's also showing up under foundation, it might very well be close family. You've got to make something of this. Don't stew on it. Turn it into something practical. What can you do with the situation to build on it from here to something that you need to do, you need to address? Okay, our goblin die, always one of my favorites because it's super cute. Do we even have it on the mat? This one might have eluded me. It might have disappeared off the mat. I just haven't found it yet. Yeah, I don't see it here, so it must have jumped off when I dropped the die. We don't need to worry about the goblin die today. Influences die. All right, let's have a look for that one. Okay, and that one is under present. And it's basically the sun shining down on a flower, and it's showing up on its own under present. So basically what it's meaning, trying to keep myself comfy here today. It's the simplest, nicest, best supportive influence. It's not seeking anything. The sun is small in this because it's not seeking anything. It's not giving and to receive in return. It gives purely to empower the flower. So it's a supportive person, a supportive relationship in your life. So it's basically saying with this challenge, you're probably going to have somebody in your life who's somebody you can talk to about it, who can help you see the positive and the constructive that you need to do to make this work out. So in other words, it's saying, even if this situation is very challenging, you're going to have support through this predicament, whatever it is. Our kindness die. Interestingly enough, it's showing up in the past with the one that's all about the hard work we need to do. So the arrow through the heart is showing up under the kindness die. And it basically is acknowledging the heart is struck. And so it says when it's meeting with other ones, you don't have to look too much deeper. Cupid's arrow is set the queer after someone or something. Life is good and something is driving a consistent production of good brain chemicals. And it says in shadow, one has to just make sure you're not being overly infatuated and maybe overlooking red flags. But when we see these three here, we'll see what the third one comes to. But so far it's saying something from the past that involved love or infatuation is something you need to work on now. And that's why this is so interesting, because remember how I said here we have the sacrifice die and you might have to sacrifice someone. There might be a relationship from the past that you've really been stuck on that you need to sacrifice. Maybe you need to not focus on it so much. Maybe you need to focus on what did I learn from that I can carry forward rather than focus on the actual relationship. Let go of what it was to you. Let go of your connection to it, especially if it's not working for you. What can you learn that you can take forward? And it might mean that you have to set boundaries with somebody. You have to do something to let the relationship go or look at it in a different way, refocus it. Okay. The longings die. The longings die is showing up as a little Buddha under inevitable. All right. So let's see what that one's about. Sanctity. So it identifies elements that you do not wish to change, let go of, or have others meddle with. So it lands in a section that's considered sacred to you. So the inevitable, the way I'm reading that is whatever the situation is that you're dealing with, don't let it throw you off your path. Don't let it stop you from doing the things that matter to you or working on the things that are important in terms of the kind of person that you want to be. Sometimes infatuations or dysfunctional relationships, we can lose ourselves in them and forget about who we are and where we were headed. So it's saying, don't do that. Whatever you're dealing with here, keep your eye focused on your path, your journey, and on who you are choosing to become. Okay, that's the longings die. All right, the majors die shows up just on the edge of the core. So we are going to include it in the core reading. And it shows up as this little checkerboard right here. And it's basically about order. So when it shows up in the core, it says to view each of the quadrants of the reading to be unique spaces. And it would like you to read them as such as well. So I find that interesting because it's landed that way. This grouping right here is all about having a very charged situation where a sacrifice is required, but really making the most of it being constructive. This situation from the past, it's its own thing too. So we're very much finding the die are landing that way. And oh, I do see the goblin die now, so let's just dial back to that one. It's showing up in a kind of an interesting place. The goblin die is showing up under without and beyond above here, and it's this pair of spectacles, and it's called focus, and it's showing up above fated. So with focus, it says it's the impossible attention, is that impossible attention where you only care for the object in front of you. Anything outside of your immediate vision beyond your main focus is unclear. So it's saying In this case, it's a stand-in for your gaze in the reading, what's behind the glasses and the mind driving the focus and ambition, what's before them and seen by them. So it's interesting because it's sitting with two other die. And what that's going to tell us as we go is, what does your focus need to be with all the experiences you're having here? What does the focus need to be going forward? So that's going to be important. It's got two other die with it. So we're going to find out about that. Okay, so when we come to the order, we've explained that. That one's just saying look at each quadrant as something separate. That makes sense. The Mariner's die is showing up under the past, and it is showing up as a knot. So that's what that one looks like. And the knot is used as a cushion. So it's basically saying it says it's all about the interconnectedness of simple and smaller things into larger, more beautiful, and often more functional things. It relates to the need to find the beauty of mundane things around you. So in other words, it's saying, can you see the beauty of this situation from the past? What did it teach you? How have you grown as a result of that? A lot of us can say, oh, I wish that hadn't happened to me. But when you really think about it, you wouldn't be who you are now. You wouldn't have developed the insights that you have now had you not had those experiences from the past. So it's saying, look at this experience you're dealing with from the past from the point of view, what did I learn? How did I grow? One of the things I learned to do is, before I was married, is if I dated and maybe it didn't work out, I didn't beat myself up for it. I learned to go, I learned a lot there, and I had some good experiences, and I've grown as a result. And I learned to see that in a positive light, not to see it as a failure, because sometimes we have to have a bunch of experiences before we get really clear on what's right for us and what we need to do next. So it's basically saying, try to look at it that way, that whatever's happened in the past, there's been a purpose to it, and it's got value. The metamorphosis die is also showing up under the past, under history. And this one is really hard to see. It's basically the pupa, the very first stage before anything can become a butterfly. So it says it's the egg, it's the beginning. Makes sense. It's showing up under history, and it's the beginning. So it can speak to the cusp of beginning a new journey. And in this case, I would say it's exactly what it's doing. It seems like this month is about really looking positively at all of our experiences. What are they trying to teach us? How have we grown? Can we move away from poor me and seeing things as a negative, and instead say, this was my journey. I chose all these experiences at soul level so I could grow as a person and I could learn. So how can I look at this situation from the past and see it's all part of a divine plan to help me become the person I came here to be, to help me to become conscious? Okay. So that's the metamorphosis die. And it's kind of sitting off on its own, just saying it's the beginning of our journey. And it's the beginning of our journey for this month too. All right, the obstacles die is showing up where? Okay. Again, I have never seen this face show up before, and it's the only one sitting in the future. So it shows a hand and a little angel above it, and it's called emergence. It's racing out from barriers and blockages put before you and soaring freely from attempts to keep you down. So it says the attempts to stop you still exist. It's it says it's the night free and spending more than you should, knowing that you need to return to saving and penny pinching tomorrow. It's being above bigotry aimed at you, but knowing it's still there, tearing others like you down. It's breaking the chains, but knowing the chains still hold others and will be repaired to hold you again someday. So it's the face of recognizing your power in the moment and rising up and beyond what's kept you from feeling free. So it's like a reverie of freedom, a momentary escape. So it gives you an idea of what you're emerging from. Use this time to, over the top of the maze of your struggles, your life, to gain perspective, better to understand what you are stuck in to help you get your way out. So it's not a release for good. It's just saying, hey, in the near future, if you do this work, you're going to get a sense of reprieve and sometimes just a feeling of, okay, this is what it can feel like to feel free from my worries and my current situation. Now I have a sense of that. Now I know, that's a touchstone. Now I know what that's going to be like in the future for me to aim in that direction. When I get there again, I'll remember that feeling and I'll remember what it was that got me there. That's a really important one. So that's what's coming up for us if we do the work. Okay. That is our obstacles die. Our relationships die is showing up under fated. And the one that we are getting is alone. Okay? Under fated. Alone is what many people think of when they see the self face, being alone, just yourself. Alone typically means an imposed isolation. In most cases, this refers to being alone in a social or mental sense. A person could be alone but surrounded by crowds if no one in the crowd knows them or speaks to them. So the way I look at this one, it's saying this journey you're on, this particular journey this month, it's your journey. It's not about getting other people to be different so that you feel okay. It's about you going, this is what I'm here to learn from. This is how I'm meant to grow, how I'm meant to walk my path. And we are being informed by these experiences. But it's not about manipulating the external to feel better. It's doing the inner work and knowing it's your work to do. Do it in this lifetime or do it in another one, only with more karma. I suggest that we all do it in this lifetime. Okay, so that's the relationships die. The spring die. I've been waiting for this one because this is the one that shows up in the past. You can see it right here. And it's showing up with the scythe um, and the pitchfork and the heart. Um, and Eva says, love it, going to be an awesome month. Yes, do the work. Yes, ma'am, you got it. Okay, so when we see these three together, this one is about sex. And its face speaks to the queer inter people in our lives. We feel attraction or feeling attraction and desire for one another. So it says when it's found with other dice, it got to pick up the context from the other dice. So it's making it really clear that these three die from the past is where you've been stuck in an infatuation or an intimate relationship and you've got work to do because you haven't let go yet. You haven't severed yourself from that connection that still holds you back. If energy is going to relationship in the past, it's robbing you of being really present. So it's like, say you're dating or you're putting yourself out there to date and you're still hung up on somebody from the past. Not all of your energy is present to be with the next person. So you got to do the work to let go and resolve. Even if what you're resolving is anger toward that person, you've got to do the work to free up your energy so you can move forward. So this is very much about a situation from the past that you're still hanging on to. You need the energy for the present here. And that's where that sacrifice has to be made so that you can make something new of it. We can either go, woe is me, I got treated badly and I'm still angry, or we can use it and say, what was I angry about? How did I allow that situation to occur? What was my behavior that allowed boundaries to be crossed or me to say yes to things I should have said no to? We can beat ourselves up or be angry at that person, or we can learn from it and say, how do I grow from that now? What do I change now that helps me to move forward? And don't forget, this die means somebody is going to be supportive of you through your process. And just so you know, if you're struggling with anything like that, I could be that someone. I do a lot of relationship work with people. One of the things I do, in fact, is a relationship spread. So even if you've come out of a difficult relationship, I could do a 12-card spread that shows what the dynamics were of that relationship so you can learn about your patterns so you don't keep repeating history. You can change it going forward. Or it can be about a current relationship. What are the dynamics there? How can you work effectively with that? So just so you know, that help is there. All right. That was our spring die. our suits die is showing up in that beyond. So remember how we had the spectacle glasses that are about the focal point you need to have going forward? It's also paired with, or it's actually not paired because there's three of them. It comes with the sword. So it looks like that, just a sword sitting in that section. And swords are the suit of the mind and the concept of logic. So it's basically about thoughts that you're carrying, doing your best to determine which of those are coming out alive. So especially if you're stuck in some old thoughts that aren't working for you. So it's saying that in this case, we're going to see there's one more die that goes with this. We'll get a better understanding as to how this is going to work. So we'll come to that. Now, the summer die, I always pull a card, and the card that got pulled is the crone of summer. So she's going to show how she influences this whole spread. When she comes up, she brings the heat of the sun with her. She's a reminder to hang out with your friends, buy yourself a nice present, do the things that treat you. In other words, it's saying, but you know, the shadow side is you can be too brash. So it's saying do some things that are nurturing. Just make sure that what you're doing isn't overindulgent, that you're not doing something to drown your sorrows and not deal with what's coming up. So there's the difference, the balance, right? Do things that are good and nurturing for you, take time to play as well as do the work, but make sure you're not doing it to avoid doing the work. Okay, that's where that comes from. And our summer's die is showing up, not showing up because it didn't land on the board this time, so we can skip that. Interesting, we got the card, but not the die. All right, the winter die. This one is showing up with these ones that are all about sacrifice and doing the work. And what we got is ice. And it's cold and unmoving, sometimes comes for us like a wall. It feels impassable. It feels unstoppable. Everything slows down. So in other words, what it's saying here is this situation is going to rob you of energy until you deal with it. This is internal work. Remember, like I said, it's not about changing things externally. It's saying you're going to have to do the work. So in the present, you might find you don't have that much energy this month for going out and connecting a lot if you haven't done this work yet. You'll need to slow down and really figure out, why is that person still on my mind? Why can they still trigger me? What is it I need to work on so that if you're having a strong emotional reaction to a situation, there's work to be done. So it's really asking yourself, what am I still attached to? And what's the core pattern being triggered that's been there my whole life? We are drawn to people because we have complementary patterns. If you don't know how to reach that core pattern, that is again a way I can help you to find out what that pattern is and work directly with it to support it to come to consciousness so that it's your partner in doing the work. So that not only will you not be so triggered by that person going forward, it will help you make better choices because it will become conscious. Okay, that is the winter die. The wounds die is the one that's sitting up here with the focus. So it is a hand with a cut on it. We're going to see what part that one plays. And it's called scar. So it focuses on the aspects of scars as being memories of wounds. It says the scar exists to this day as its own entity, not merely what caused it. So what effects does the scar have today in its current form? So I find this really interesting because we have the glasses, which is about focus, the sword, and the scar. And remember, the sword was being of two minds and which one's going to win. So it's saying your focus after this can either be, I'm so wounded, this was done to me, or it can be, I have a scar from it, I've learned from it. The scar might always be there, but is it something that's now positive? Because remember, a scar means something has healed over. You still have the memory of the situation, but it no longer runs the show. So you can choose to stay wounded, which means you keep ripping it open, or you can do the work so it heals. You'll always have the memory of the situation, but you will have healed and grown from it, which means you will be different. The scar now makes you different, but the difference can be a positive. So that's what I'm seeing for October. You can see there's a lot going on. If you need any support working on the stuff that's coming up for you, please let me know. When I finish this, I'll put a link to my site so you can book a session. Take care, everybody. If I do get a chance this month, I'll pop in and do mini readings. Last month was just insane. Y'all found me now in Nanaimo, so I'm keeping really busy. And I'm doing a lot of psychic fairs, so I'll be at the Da Vinci Center in Victoria this Saturday. I'll be giving a talk in Nanaimo on the 17th. I've got another session in Victoria for the Intuitive Fair, November 2nd and 3rd. And then November 30th, I'm back in Parksville. Check out my website to see what I'm up to. And for those of you who want to play with the decks, October 27th, I have a workshop at my office. Again, you can find the information on my website. And I'm going to be bringing over 50 decks to play with and teaching you how to do readings yourself. So not only will you learn how to intuitively work with a deck, you'll come away with some insights for yourself by giving and receiving readings. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks everybody for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.